Greetings and welcome to Starkville. I am Jason Stark. I write about baseball for The Athletic. I'm joined once again by my good friend, writer, broadcaster, professor, distinguished former major leaguer, and the voice of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio, Doug Glanville. Doug, Here we are, man. We've got a week to go in the season. I'm not sure how that happened, but here we are. So aside from the grand finale in Cleveland of our guest this week, Terry Francona, here's my question. What is the one story that you can't stop following or thinking about this week? Just need one.
Just one. Okay, I'm going to say Ronald Acuna Jr. I think what might appear on the back of his card has never been seen before. Every time I look, I'm like, let me just look at this guy's stats. And I'm like, this makes no sense. I haven't looked at it recently, but first of all, he could be 40-70 if he isn't already. I don't know what, 40-70. All right. That's just
maybe by the time, as we tape this, he's not, but by the time this thing actually airs, he could be.
Yeah, he probably is. He's hearing this in the future. And, but then the strikeout totals and the walks, they're like 1-to-1 ratio. Come on. And, batting average. I mean, it's absurd what he's doing. So I don't have my Ohtani anymore right now, which is very upsetting. So now the first box score I look at is Ronald Acuna Jr. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I just want to see how this guy ends because this is just insane.
It's a good choice. You're probably interested in what I'm looking at. Okay. So I'll tell you, I'm obviously hanging on the National League wildcard race very closely because it will directly affect my life, where I travel, what games I attend in October. But I have to admit, I can't stop thinking about the AL West because what happens if the dust settles next Sunday and the Astros, Rangers, and Mariners are all tied? Not just for first place, but also for the last wild card spot. It means one of those teams is going home, right?
Yeah.
And they won't play it off because we don't do that anymore. It'll come down to some 17th tiebreaker. So we don't even know right now who would go home if they tied because they have so many games against each other the rest of the way. Wow. I actually have the MLB three-way tiebreaker formula as a tab on my screen at all times right now. Does that seem healthy? It doesn't seem that healthy to me.
I mean, you could always have a duel. And then in this case, 3-team duel, and then call it a day.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to watch it all unfold. And so right now, as we're recording this on Friday, which is a little tricky because the Mariners and Rangers are going to play 3 times between now and when this.
And I will be there, by the way.
Well, I'm glad you're going to be there. Of course, I'll be there. This will be in the future, so you've already been there. But let's not confuse people.
That's true. It's
so right now, right now the Mariners would win the division because they have the best record against the other two. The Astros would get the wild card spot because they have a better record against the Rangers. But that could all change by next Sunday. So I guess my advice would be keep coming back to The Athletic because we'll be all over it. And I have this 3-way tiebreaker thing on my screen. Doug, it always makes me happy when Terry Francona joins us just because we've both known him for so long and he's one of our favorite people in baseball. But I have to admit, this week, it also makes me a little sad because even though he's having a hard time saying that R word out loud, Terry Francona has dropped about 1,000 hints that he's heading into the final week of his managerial career. So here he is, the manager of the Cleveland Guardians, Terry Francona. Welcome back to Starkville.
Thanks, guys. It's an honor to be here. And to your point, there's a reason that there's been a lot of hints. I don't think it's ever supposed to be about the manager, but I don't want to ever fib to people when they ask me stuff. But the real truth to it is I think it's the best way to be fair to the organization, like so they can start to figure out what they want to do without having the burden of me in, out, in, out. I've been real honest with my bosses, and so they can start to their process to find the next guy. That's kind of why we did it the way we did it.
Is it hard for you to say that word retire?
No, it really isn't. I'll tell you
Really?
what, Jason, from about June until I talked to Chris and Cherney, probably middle of August, yeah, it was hard. I was really wrestling with it. And it was kind of making me mad because it was consuming a lot of my thoughts. And that's not a healthy thing, especially for a manager. And then once I came to the decision, like, hey, I got to talk to these guys, I felt back to being myself. So I knew it was the right thing. It took some time to get there. And I think that's probably only realistic. You know, when you've done something so long, you don't want to make a decision overnight. But it's a good time. I never want to overstay or stay for the wrong reasons. And there's things I'm not able to do, even just because physically. And I don't want to just stay to stay. That's not how I feel. And there's always got to be a huge respect for the game.
Look, I know you love managing, despite all that goes with it sometimes. Let me ask it this way. How hard is it, or has it been, to imagine yourself not managing?
But and that's the good part. It really hasn't been that hard. I think I'm looking forward to, right when the season's over, I'm going to get another set of surgeries. I do that every year. And it'll take me a while to kind of get healthy. But I'm really looking forward to seeing like what's next and what do I miss? You know, how much do you miss it? Do you miss it? I thought when I got done playing, I would be a typical, because that's all I'd ever done. And I put my equipment bag away and never looked at it again. And, I gave everything I had. It was time, and I moved on. I'm kind of looking forward to this now just to see how I do feel. And I'm not worried about, there's no timetable for the first time in my life. And I can take a deep breath and like I said, get healthy, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, Tito, was there a difference, coming to the moment of retiring as a player versus a manager? The feelings, the grappling, did you have the same kind of process, or how are they different?
Well, I think as a player, it comes a little more abrupt, and other people had a lot to do with that too, because that's they kind of retired me, and I don't blame them. But I think a lot of the same stuff. I was pretty beat up as a player, and I think I'm pretty beat up now as a manager. And it just seems like a good time. And not many people in this game are able to leave on their own. Usually there's somebody else making the decision for them. That's why when I talked to Chris and Cherney about this for the last month, I told him, I said, hey, man, don't tiptoe around me. Go enjoy finding the next guy. I mean, you guys aren't firing me. I've loved my time here. And I mean, I have cherished it. And I want them to enjoy going and finding the next guy, because I want them to be successful here.
Listen, we promised you we wouldn't spend the whole conversation grilling you about a word that you haven't said yet. So,
well, it's a little easier today, Jay, just because yesterday they kind of announced that, or the other day, that they're going to do something next, I guess, Wednesday.
They're giving away thank you, Tito t-shirts.
Once you give out t-shirts, man, there's no going back.
No, exactly. But here's what I would love to spend the rest of the show doing, as someone who has spent the last 25 years listening to your great stories. I'd love to do some reminiscing with you about teams, players, even games you've managed. Does that sound good to you?
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
Okay. Then I would say we have to start here. How much longer do you think you would have managed if you didn't have to manage that Doug Glanville?
That's a loaded question.
Yes, of
you know
course.
What? And I don't want to embarrass him, but I'm gonna. But guys like Doug are the reason guys like me manage for as long as we do, because good, bad, or in between on the results. When guys show up, give you an honest day's work, try their hardest, are a solid citizen, a great teammate, that's kind of why we do this. And that's your partner to a T. So I know it's probably embarrassing him, but tough.
Doug, how embarrassed are you right now?
No, very appreciative, Tito. And, you remember I arrived in Philly in a trade. The trade was on like literally hours shortly after my grandfather passed away. And everybody knows I was a huge Phillies fan. And I remember during the press conference to kind of introduce me remotely, they said, "You don't sound very excited," and they kind of realized that, yeah, I was dealing with the loss of my grandfather. It was the first Christmas I remember my family was divided because my mom and my brother went down to North Carolina to, get everything prepared for the services. So I came in this like whirlwind, and Lenny Dykstra was kind of like semi-retired and coming back. And then, Tito was great. I get there at spring training and it was just like ease. It was just such a good fit. Immediately knew that this was going to be like a situation where I could grow into this. So from day one, I appreciate it because, he was, Terry Francona was always like, play hard, respect that. And, I'll let the rest fall. But it's like, you got to put your best effort in every day. And he's like, I'm not going to say anything unless you're not hustling out there. So it allowed us to focus on, the things that we could develop, knowing that, as Sean Dunston said, hustling is free. Like, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take talent. And he allowed us to understand that primarily. So yeah, so many, great times of just laughing, and we had so much fun. I guess one story, I think I mentioned it, but I want to repeat it, about when you find Bobby Abreu, we love him, but he was always late, especially early on. And so Terry finds him, and no, I think I got this right. So he comes in. So was it 250? I think it,
yeah, back then that's pretty substantial.
So he's like, dude, like, I can't, you got it, 250. This is it, 250. It just says 250, right? So Bobby, you never could tell with Bobby, like, how good his English was, because he was always kind of like very charismatic. And so he walks in, and I think Terry can handle the rest, right? He walks in, and what does he do, Tito?
Put $2.50 on my desk. And I didn't know, like Doug said, I didn't know quite how I'm like, whoa, this might not be going in a good direction.
Tremendous. All right. So since we went here, what do you have a favorite Philadelphia story that is where it all began for you? Like, it could be as a manager, or the really great times you had after you'd gotten fired and you had to go back to the vet as a scout.
Yeah, that, the one that seems that's kind of funny, and it's kind of fitting probably for my 4 years there, was my last year. They started to move my parking spot, like maybe weekly, just because fans were kind of starting to,
yes.
And as you know, they're not shy in voicing their opinion. And the last home game, we were headed out to finish the year on the road. It was Fan Appreciation Day. I go up to my car, and all of my tires were splashed. And the timing was impeccable. As I'm kind of out inspecting my car, Brad Mills drives by in his car. And that was like the last person that I ever watched. And he thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Now, the good part was I got a ride to the airport. The bad news was Millsy, was like chatty Cathy. He told everybody in the whole organization. And it was kind of fitting for my 4 years there.
It was never Manager Appreciation Day, huh?
No, that would be a good way to put it. And then after, I lived there for years after that. Oh, yeah. I remember being at one of my kids' volleyball games, and a guy came up to me, and he actually said to me, he goes, "I can't believe you still live here." like, man, I got kids, man. He goes, I thought you would get out of here. And he didn't say it real kindly.
For the record, that guy was not me.
No.
Although we did see each other at a few volleyball games, right? So, do you have a favorite story about the vet you managed at Veterans Stadium? What a place!
I have a couple that one is Bill Giles, who anybody that has been around Bill, I mean, he is like everybody's grandfather. And I love the guy. I mean, love him. And he would always ask me, he goes, can I put my workout stuff in your locker? And I would laugh because I'd come into the ballpark around noon and he'd be laying on my floor in his workout stuff. And I'd be like, Bill, what are you doing? And he'd do like one sit-up, go put his workout stuff away. But it just, I mean, those types of memories of him, like I love the guy. Like he'd take us golfing and you couldn't pay for anything when he was around. I felt bad because I wanted to win so bad because I know how bad he wanted it, and we just weren't very good. But to this day, I just feel so much love for him that it's hard to keep it bottled up. He's just that type of guy.
Oh yeah, and well, I think of Philly in many ways, and just so many great memories. The staff. So I guess, is there anything that comes to mind about some of the most powerful lessons that like takeaways that you can say, this is true about being in this game?
I think, Dougie, the biggest thing was I felt like, like you were saying earlier, play the game hard, play the game with respect. And if you do that, I felt like it was my job to kind of protect you guys because we were getting beat up pretty good. And I probably took a little bit of a beating myself for that from the press and the public. But I think it really reinforced how I did feel about the game. And then you go to a place like Boston where they're kind of built to win, but you also know how you feel about the players. And that's when it has a chance to get really special. But I remember Howard Eskin asking me like 10 years later how I got so much better as a manager. And I looked at him like, I kind of the same person. Like, it just, if you have to explain it, it's probably not worth explaining.
Oh, so the players apparently had something to do with it. Who knew? Yeah. Let's talk about the Red Sox. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but what is your favorite memory of games 4, 5, 6, and 7 of that 2004 ALCS? Pretty memorable time.
Jace, I've said this a lot of times. Those are probably the 4 funnest baseball days of my life. And what I think is true, and I know it's true, I didn't wait for it to be over to go, oh my goodness, that was cool. I loved every minute of it. I remember when Dave Roberts was leaving the dugout and I winked at him, I never thought for a minute he would be out or we would lose. And it's like, when you look back on it, man, there's a lot of ways that could have gone the wrong direction. but it just, it was fun. Like I loved it. And, would it ever turn out the same again? Probably not. I mean, the odds are kind of against you, but it was really something. And it's probably fitting. All the times they lost and all the ways they lost, to win like that was probably fitting.
Yeah, we've had Kevin Millar on the show telling the story of his epic walk off Mariano, which was the biggest moment of the comeback, as we all know. We've had Dave Roberts on telling his story about his side of the stolen base. I don't think we've ever had you tell your version of it. How, I mean, it was the stolen base that changed everything. And yet it feels like you kind of saw it happening in your head before the inning ever started.
The funny part is, so we were down in the tunnel, and back in 2004, that tunnel was small because they hadn't had the batting cage down there yet. We're down there in the tunnel, and it's Bill Miller because he's hitting second. And we got Dave Roberts down there and Millar. And I said, okay, Millar's going to get on. I said, Dave's going to pinch run. I said, he's going to try to steal. And then I'm telling Billy Miller, but we had done this in Anaheim about 5 days before, and Dave couldn't get a good jump, so he didn't run. So I said, now, Billy, if he can't get a jump, we might have to have you bunt. And Bill Miller's looking at me like, are you kidding me? Facing Mariano Rivera, I'm supposed to look out one eye. And so that's kind of why I wanted Dave to go on the first pitch, because we needed to free Billy up a little bit. Because I don't think people talk enough about Billy Miller. I mean, that year. I mean, and that hit, man. I mean, that stolen base was unbelievable. But if he pops up, that doesn't mean as much.
Yeah. Do you ever play the what if game in your head? What if Dave Roberts hadn't been safe by like 1/64th of an inch?
I know that ownership had a letter out to ready to send out to the fans an apology for our lackluster performance. So I probably wouldn't have been managing there very long, just my guess.
Wow. As I said, the stolen base had changed everything. Right, Doug?
Oh, it did. And the green light, I guess that's makes me think of that. Like, you were always very free, and still to this day, about, hey, run, just trust the players. Where did that come from? Where you kind of, everybody, didn't matter about speed. It was always about choosing the right moment. Where did that come from?
Dougie, it's funny you say that, because Dustin Pedroia told me something a couple years ago. We were just talking, and anybody knows how much I love Dustin. And he told me something in a conversation. He goes, Tito, he goes, you trusted us. And it kind of hit me, because I want to trust the players. I can tell you to go from point A to B to C, but that's not going to be as good. Once I know you understand what we're trying to do, I think letting good players go play, it allows them more freedom. And I think they're better players. I think it makes it more fun, but it also makes them better. And that's the idea is, okay, like, I don't want to look up and have some guy running and it's going to surprise me. So we work hard at communicating so players understand, but then I think you turn them loose.
I wanted to ask you about Dustin Pedroia, so I'm going to do it. You and that guy were like a comedy act. Do you have a favorite Dustin Pedroia story that still makes you laugh?
There's about 1,000 of them. He was. I always tell people, when he walked into the room, it sounded like the room got brighter. It's like the bulbs got brighter. But he had this way about him. He used to mess with John Farrell all the time, and John one day picked him up, and it was so easy. Just kind of grabbed him, picked him up, and he put him head first into the garbage can. And his little feet are waving, and you could hear there's like an echo, and he's like, you can't do this to me, I'm the MVP. It was Petey. He was so, he could say things, but they were so genuine and harmless and endearing that, like, I'd have a Make-A-Wish kid in my office, and he'd come in and rip his shirt open and go, kid, you can do anything you want. He just had a way about him that was just, if you don't appreciate and love him, you don't have it in you.
Boy, that guy was one of a kind. Let me ask you about Manny Ramirez too. I know it wasn't always easy managing that guy, but you must have a Manny story that you tell that makes the whole room crack up.
Jace, the hard part with Manny was he had some endearing qualities, but when you're in charge of a team, it could be hard. And it was hard sometimes. Real hard. And so sometimes I have a hard time letting that part go, because some of the things that happened, offended me. But one of my funniest one was, and it wasn't funny at the time, but we're playing the Yankees, and we lost that 5-game series, and I think they called it the Boston Massacre. And in the 5th game, the trainer came up and says, Tito, Manny's got a bad hammy. he's coming out or something. And I go, oh, what else could go wrong? And I lean back in my chair, and here he's coming down the dugout with his bat and his glove. And I go, Manny, which one? And he goes, pick one. In other words, I'm coming out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. Great. He defied medical science in many ways. I think that's safe to say. And one of my favorite that I've heard you tell was from the 2004 World Series, right? When Yachty was accusing Manny of trying to steal signs.
They were kind of down towards the end, and they were, I think, looking for a last gasp. And Manny, when it was up, getting in the box, nothing's going on. And all of a sudden you can see Yachty and Manny kind of going back and forth, and you can just tell by the body language that it's not good. So I kind of pop out of the dugout, and I think Chuck Merriweather was the umpire. And I got out there and I go, Chuck, what's going on? And Manny says, Tito, Yachty's accusing me of stealing their signs. And I just kind of matter-of-factly said, Yachty, he doesn't even know our signs. I said, don't worry about it, man. And just turn around and walk back in the dugout.
I'm sure that was true, right? He didn't know your signs.
Yeah.
Doug Glanville always knew the signs.
Yes, I tried to know that. So did you have I guess when you look at this life in the game, really, and you think of your dad, and, what are there, I guess, mentors or people that you kind of now have perspective on about some of the lessons they gave you that you can kind of put full circle?
All the way back to high school, the guy, his name was Greg Fazio, and wasn't all that much older than me, but he made baseball really fun. And I thought my dad did a great job not getting his lawn chair and going and sit out in right field. So this guy never felt, like that shadow of my dad. And then I went to college, and Jerry Kindle was the perfect guy to play for a young guy that, I know it's probably hard to imagine now, but had a hair or two loose that, wanted to see everything and try everything and, be a typical teenager. There was a reason my parents wanted me to play for him, and he was a blessing. And then, the other guy that really has probably the biggest influence in my career is Buddy Bell. And, Buddy, I roomed with Buddy in Cincinnati. He hired me with the White Sox for my first job in the minor leagues. I went to be his third base coach with the Tigers. And so much of what I believe in the game is because of Buddy. And I think I've told people a million times, the one thing I'll brag about is I think I've been around more good people in the game than anybody else in the history of the game. And I still believe that.
There's certain things that we have to ask you about before we let you go. You have to tell a Michael Jordan story, just one, right? Speaking of good people you were around.
Yeah. There's so many good stories. What was nice is when you're around Michael, once he trusts you and you're kind of can be, because when you're him, I get it. You can't just throw out that circle of trust, man, because everybody wanted to get at him. But I would watch him on these bus rides. You're looking at an 8, 10, 12-hour bus ride through the South, and he was happy. And it finally dawned on me that people couldn't get to him. And he had time to relax, and whether he wanted to play dominoes or Yahtzee, or he was really enjoying it. And so, people ask me all the time now, do I talk to him? Yeah, every once in a while. And it's not because I don't want to, but I saw how he lived his life and how many people were trying to get at him. And I just think when you're a good enough friend, you don't need to bug somebody. And I saw how he treated people and how he reacted in situations. And it was just so good. He treated our coaches in Birmingham with so much respect, and that made it work. It made it be easy to be patient with him in baseball, and he deserves a lot of, it was kind of fashionable to get on him at the time for doing it, and he was so respectful to the game, and that meant a lot to me.
And then you were managing World Series games in Cleveland when LeBron was there. It's you connect a lot of dots.
Watching LeBron, I used to, for a while there, I had Cavs tickets, and I would show up when I was in town about an hour before the game because I wanted to watch how they interacted before the game. And sometimes I'd leave in the third quarter, even of a good game, but I liked watching before the game, like going early and watching Steph Curry do his shoot around, watching LeBron do his thing. Those are things that I really – I do it now at the U of A. I go to the game 45 minutes early. Me and my buddy are the only two people there. I love that part of it because I think it's enjoyable to watch guys how they're getting ready to compete.
I do that too. I love to do that too.
Well, do you have the Jordan? How about the Jordan scouting report? Like, what did you conclude beginning and then end? Like, how he started. I mean, because I remember in Orlando, he would beat us to our own field, and he was in the batting cage before the game, after the game. It's like, I mean, the work ethic was insane. So I was, like, where did you see him going? I mean, if anybody could have done it with so little experience, it seemed like he could have.
And that's what I've tried to tell people is I don't think it's fair to make an assessment on until he had another, like 1,000 at bats, because it just wasn't fair. But I do believe, and I found out, you tell him no, he's going to find a way to make the answer be yes. And from the beginning of April in Birmingham till the end in November in Scottsdale at the Fall League, he had really gotten better. And I mean, he found a way in the Southern League to drive in 50, and he stole 30, and he didn't even really know where he was going. And he went out to the Fall League, and I think he hit 255. I think he'd have found a way to get to the major leagues. I really do. I mean, he could go left and right about as good as anybody, and which is not shocking. And he can steal a base now. And I've never seen somebody, he never ran out of energy. I don't know how he did it. I mean, he never ran out of energy. He could play 18 holes in the morning, play 9, and he's still ready to go.
That's why he's Michael Jordan. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't dug nearly enough Cleveland. And you know what I would like to ask you about? The 22-game winning streak. That was 2017. How would you describe what it's like to manage a baseball team that doesn't lose a game for 3 weeks?
It was pretty fun, Jace. I know that. It's funny because we're people look at your schedule and they're like, oh man, you're coming into the teeth of your schedule. We had to go to New York and we had a double header, and it just kind of kept going. But we try to stay in the moment so well that I admit it was enjoyable, but I didn't really get too caught up in it. And I remember, it's funny, the night we lost, I came in and Chris and Cherney were sitting on my couch, and I'm like, God, losing still sucks. Like even when you won 22 in a row, but it was fun because I thought our guys did a good job. We used everybody. We didn't stay away from people, so everybody felt a part of it, and so that was, I think, the good part of it.
Mm-hmm. Is there a moment from that streak, the Jay Bruce homer, maybe?
That was when you kind of started to shake your head, like, wow, and I mean, it just when I look back, I mean, that's a pretty interesting accomplishment for a team, because in this game, it's just so easy to lose a game and go 3 weeks without it, man. That was a good 3 weeks.
Right. Is there one game or one move or one moment that you're going to remember forever when you think back on your time as a manager?
Oh boy. I mean, I one that comes to mind is, when we were in the World Series in 2016, we were pretty shorthanded because guys were so beat up. And but I loved our guys. I mean, we had guys like Josh Tomlin, and I mean, it just, Kluber on short rest. And I remember telling Chris and Cherney, we had gotten Andrew Miller, and I said, hey, I might try to leverage this a little bit. And then they looked up in the 5th inning, and he's in there from the 5th to the 8th. But and I remember Andrew, he was such a weapon, but he was also a willing weapon. Like this kid, he was pitching so much. And when I'd go at night, he's in a training room because he knew he was going to pitch the next day. And it was just made you feel like, man, this is what it's about. And that's why I thought we might win, is because guys like him.
Yeah. I don't know how to ask this. What do you think is the dumbest move you ever made as a manager that turned out great?
I tell you what, I know what I think people think is the dumbest move is, and Dougie probably remembers this, but in Philadelphia, they had Scott Rowland. I think it was Scott Rowland bobblehead day.
Oh, yeah.
And it was on a Sunday. And I had talked to Scotty earlier in the week. And I said, Scotty, I know you're exhausted. And he goes, I'm pretty beat up. I go, let's get to Sunday because then we have Monday off too. I said, it'll be really, and he goes, perfect. He goes, I can get to Sunday. Well, he came in Saturday to my office and he said, do you know there's a bobblehead day tomorrow? And I said, no, I wasn't aware. And he goes, you're going to get killed. He goes, I'll play. And I said, Scotty, do you need the day off? And he goes, it would be good for me. I said, then you're off. And I remember I took a lot of heat for that, but I think Scotty appreciated it. And that's what I cared about. So for one person to appreciate it, it outweighed all the booing that believe me, it was well worth it.
Well, just so you know, since he just got honored by the Phillies in the Wall of Fame, and that day has come up quite a bit. So I don't know what it meant to the rest of the town.
Yeah, I think I know.
Yeah, I think you do too.
But for Scotty to appreciate it, that's all that made it more than worthwhile.
Well, I just thought of one story. I was curious if you remember this, but there was a period where I had a nice stolen base streak going and I was running a lot and we're at the vet and I stole second base and the ball comes in, the guy catches it and then, puts the courtesy tag on me. I was standing on the base. So it was like I stole that base by 10 feet and umpire calls me out and you walk out there and you're like, I know you got this wrong. You need to change the call. He's like, I can't. And he thought he'd like daydreamed and thought it was a force play. So that when he caught it, he's pretty. So do you remember that play?
Yes. Charlie Williams, I believe, was the umpire. And he goes, Tito, I'm so sorry. He goes, I just whiffed. And I said, Charlie, if I leave this field and not get thrown out, I said, fans here. And he says, he goes, you got to tell me something bad. And I said, Charlie, don't make me do that. I said, I don't feel that way, but I said, I can't let these people, I said, they're going to kill me. I do remember that.
So it was just a mercy ejection?
Well, I mean, I finally said something, but I was like, Charlie, I don't mean that. I said, I just wish you got the call right.
Yeah, it was surreal.
It was.
So what I've been Roland though, one thing that was interesting about Roland, and I remember an interview one spring training, they asked him about goals, and he always said, I don't have any goals. He'd always to reject that, and his response was always, well, if I set my goal to have 30 home runs and then I get to 30, am I done? Do I just shut the season down? So and Roland always had his different thinking, but that was kind of central to him being like, well, I could be as good as the sky. Who knows? So I'm curious if you set goals, and if so, or if not, I guess is there anything you look back and saying, well, I wish I accomplished this, or I had this, or does that cross your mind at all?
Dougie, it really never has. What I try to do, I try so hard every day to be the best I can for the players in the organization. I always feel like if I put the players and the organization first, my situation would take care of itself. I felt like that back in Birmingham and in South Bend. Well, it's 30 years later and I'm still doing this. I just think that's the way it's meant to be. And that's why I've wanted this last month to be kind of quiet about me, because that's not what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about the players. and I'm really comfortable with that. I had my chance, and now it's their turn to play and see how good they can be, and I'm more than good with that.
Hey, listen, I can't let you leave without telling the ice cream story from the 2016 World Series. So please tell that one more time. We'll be grateful that you did.
Like, it was in Chicago. What was it like? I think the bill was like $76 or something. I couldn't get room service. Like, I was begging them. Like, I couldn't sleep. I had scoops of chocolate, strawberry, vanilla. It ended up like on my chest.
You fell asleep in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and I woke up in a puddle of like it was not good, man. It looked like somebody got murdered in my room. That's happened a lot of times. Like,
really,
that was just during the World Series and people cared about it. But that happens that actually happened a couple nights ago. I had a piece of rigatoni stuck to my chest. It happens all the time.
You woke up with rigatoni stuck to your chest.
Because I always, I go home from the game, and the first thing I do is get off my feet because my legs are killing me. And I'll either read or I'll watch Netflix or something, and inevitably I just fall asleep. And whatever's next to me ends up usually under me.
Okay. So hopefully you can clean that up.
Stop managing. One of our clubhouse kids goes over every once a week just to help me out a little bit, and he's like, God, he goes, you had a bad night, and we all kind of laugh about it.
All right. Okay.
Well, Tito, is there one thing I was thinking about? You're the one who introduced us to Money Heist, right? The show.
That's right.
Was it?
Just thinking
yeah. So
that was
great. So I'm curious, is there, what do you look forward to? Like, what do you see yourself doing? Like, are there shows, movies you want to see?
You know what, Dougie, I've been catching myself doing lately is when if I'm on my computer or my phone and there's an ad that comes up like visit London or, like stuff I've never even thought about before. I'll get on it and read it and think, hey, I've never done that. Like my buddies in Tucson, they're putting together a golf trip to Ireland next year. They've done it several times. I've never been able to do it. I want to get healthy enough where I can go over there and play golf. And so those are things I guess I'm starting to think about and kind of gets me a little excited.
Yeah. So, all right, let's think about it. Next year, this time, last week of the baseball season, what do you imagine you'll be doing?
Well, I mean, I think I'll be a part of this organization. I don't know doing what. I think Chris and Cherney have been so good about allowing me some time to kind of get my thoughts in order and see. Like I said, I don't know what I'm going to miss. And, you can't, and I'm okay with that. But then as I start to maybe formulate whether they're emotions or thoughts, I'll talk to Chris and Cherney about it and figure out where I can maybe be productive. But I need some time for that.
Yeah. I noticed you didn't predict you'd be hanging out in Starkville next year this time, but I want you to know.
Hey, listen to me. Hey, listen, Jace. If anytime I'm invited to Starkville, you can count me. As long as we don't have a day game that day, you can count me in.
All right, careful what you wish for, but you should know you are welcome back here anytime. And next time you can tell stories about us. That'd be fine. Okay.
The only thing I might be doing is if I'm coaching my grandson's little league team, it's a day game. I might have to put you off for another day. Okay.
All right. We can let him slide. I think we will, Doug, right?
We'll let him. That's all right. We're working on this statue though. The Francona. We always give statues away.
Yeah. That'll be ready any century now. All right. Terry Francona, always awesome to have you here, man. Savor every minute the rest of the way because it's going to be special.
Thanks, Jace. You know what? I think I've savored the last 11 years. I mean, I told Chris and Cherney that's been what I've enjoyed. And so I am going to, the last week, but I've loved my time here. So that's why I'm so comfortable. I've been fine and I've enjoyed it and I'm okay with everything. So I enjoyed visiting with you guys, seeing Dougie there brings back such good memories. So, was fun to visit with you guys.
Well, pleasure was ours. So thank you, my friend. We'll see you somewhere. I'm sure not that far down the road, we'll get to hang out with you on induction weekend in Cooperstown.
Well, I'll see you somewhere. How's that?
Sounds good. It's time for listener trivia, our way of involving you, our favorite listeners, in this show. Doug, as I mentioned last week, we haven't had a single month all season, including spring training, where we got 0 questions right. But we're 0 for September. This is our final Starkville of September. Are you feeling it, man? You're not.
I figured we're stockpiling for playoffs. We got to stockpile for the playoffs, man. So I'm in low power, like safe mode on your computer. It just go a little lower, just to conserve energy. And then boom, when we're sleep deprived all through October, we're gonna hit them all. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm okay. I'm okay.
What are you conceding? We're not even going to get this one today.
I'm only conceding it's not necessary for greatness to be found. But because I think we're going to just get hot in October. But I'm going to
I thought it's important to get rolling as you head into October. We'll find out if that's possible, because we got a tough question on our hands today. At least it comes from one of our favorite trivia guest stars. So let's bring him back for, I'm pretty sure, the 12th time. It's Paul McCord. You may know him on social media as Brave Stats. Paul, welcome back to Starkville.
Thank you, guys. I know I'm not ready for a statue quite yet, but one of those keys will be nice.
You want a key to the city? Doug, where do we stand on the key to the city manufacturing?
Well, since we're always in hotels here, there are virtual keys, so you can go, so you can just, check in early and we can send you a virtual key in the meantime.
Okay. So you just program it into his phone then.
Yes, that's it. And you just hit the app. And then eventually we'll have doors to go to these keys at some point whenever Starkville really opens.
Paul, look for that. I don't know when, but enough of this. Paul, do you have any idea how many times you've been here stumping us with your evil trivia questions?
I am pretty sure this is my 4th, and I think you've gotten 2 of the past 3 correct.
Really?
Okay.
I think so.
Wow. All right.
It's funny. I was thinking back. I couldn't remember any we got right.
Back in July 21, my Starkville debut, that was a relief pitcher question about the fastest pitchers of all, but they were relievers to 500 career strikeouts. And so you guys, I think, got the I think all 5 of that, and we only needed 4. I think that's when the Glenville line debuted before it was named.
Nice, very nice.
Okay, Doug, this man deserves a key. Okay,
that's a key.
All right. Well, I don't know what's in store for us this week, but I do want to find out. So, Paul, why don't you hit us with your question?
All right. Well, as of yesterday, September 21st, Miguel Cabrera has 3,167 career hits, 510 of which are home runs, and he's got a 306.6 career batting average that rounds up to 307 on his baseball cards.
Wow.
In the full history of Major League Baseball, only 3 players have more home runs and more hits than Miggy. Only 4 players have more home runs and a higher batting average than Miggy. No players on both lists, so that means it's 7 different players, which reveals the fun fact that inspired the question. Miggy is the only player ever with 500 more home runs, 3,100 or more hits, and a 306 or better batting average, which is, of course, his batting average. So 7 players, 3 with more homers and hits, 4 with more homers and batting average.
Okay.
Can you name them? Do you only want to take one of the 2 groups?
All right. Well, first off, apparently Miggy was pretty good. Who knew?
Yeah. Miggy appreciation question this week.
Yeah, he would. Okay. Second, we really don't have time to do both. We're on a pretty tight schedule this week. Maybe we can bring you back at some point down the road, and we'll try the other one. I would say, Doug, let's go for the 3 players in history with more homers and more hits than Miggy. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Average is always tricky.
Yeah,
but home runs and hits. Yeah, that's amazing. There's only 3.
Yeah, well,
so wow.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is whoever it is, we'll have heard of them. Okay, in theory, we should get this. If I remember this right from the other day, Miggy just moved into 16th place on the all-time hits list. So that means there's only 15 players ahead of him.
Okay.
I mean, some of those we know didn't hit 500 homers. So let's think about this, Doug.
This is
like
all
Hank
you,
Aaron.
by the way.
Okay, Hank Aaron's obviously one.
Yes,
Remember, Paul is a Braves
love
fan. We know that Henry Aaron is one of the answers.
Yes.
Willie Mays is ahead of him in both, right?
I would think
he is, right? So then who else? I guess these would be my questions. Did Griffey get enough hits? Did Albert get enough hits? And how about Frank Robinson? And how about Eddie Murray? Those were 4 names I thought of pretty quickly. So, Doug, who's on your list?
I mean, there's really nobody on my list. That's just an amazing list. So 3,000 hit and
3,100.
31,
hits.
right? Well, 3,167, right? So there's a lot more. Ooh, wow. Those are great names. I definitely had Aaron Mays, and then I kind of draw a blank.
Okay, so
I mean, Griffey
Palmeiro was in the 500 homer 3,000 hit club, right? But I don't think he's ahead of Miggy. Because it all fell off the table pretty abruptly, for reasons we don't want to get into. Okay, so you like Aaron?
Albert. Yeah, I like Aaron and Mays. I mean, that's, at least those are good, strong answers. I mean, yeah, whether they have 31-59, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. About
I know. But, okay, so Albert, we know got more than he beat the homers.
Well, he got the homers, yeah.
Right. Did he get to the hits? Did he ever
you mentioned the 15. You mentioned the 15 players. All right, 500 home runs. There's a lot there.
Yeah,
3,000 hits.
Rose and Cobb and Jeter, guys like that are not. They didn't get 500 homers. We can eliminate a lot.
Yes,
but the problem is we can't employ your devious cheating scheme this week. We got to actually get the 3. So I don't know. Feels like kind of Aaron Mays and Pujols to me, but it could be Eddie Murray.
Ooh.
It could be
Palmeiro.
I know they're definitely in that club.
3,000 hit Pujols.
He got. I mean, he got 600 homers. Did he get 30, close to 3,200 hits? I don't think he did, but he
sounds like a lot of hits.
We
have Griffey.
Half, didn't he?
I mean, Junior. I don't know, all the injuries at the end. Did he get that many hits? He got 3,000. Right?
I don't think he's got the hits. I don't.
Right.
I think it's Murray, Palmeiro, or Pujols. Now that I think about it.
Ooh, boy. All right. I played with Palmeiro, so I'll just say no since I don't remember my career half the time. I was on the field for, I think it was 400th, so that was interesting. So wait, Murray and Albert.
So Aaron Mays and either Murray or Albert if you're eliminating Palmeiro.
Oh, this is terrible. Palmeiro having that many hits. That's amazing. I don't know. I may have to flip a coin here. Albert. I mean, Albert was recent. When did he retire? I mean, did he walk too much or something? Murray.
Well, he's got 600 homers and over 3,000 hits. The question is, did he get close enough to 3,200 hits? That's a lot of hits. That's where we have issues.
Another 200 hit season.
I would guess him, but that's my gut feel. That seems pretty obvious if we just guess him. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how tricky Paul is. I can't remember.
Yeah. All right. Well,
let's just guess.
We can go. I mean, we could go Albert. That would be amazing.
Right,
Murray is so deadly too. All right.
Okay,
well, we can go Albert.
Okay.
20 whatever years he played.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Paul, this turned out to be harder than I thought it would be when I first started thinking about the question. So let's just get it over with. Any chance that we got this right, and it's Aaron, Mays, and Pujols.
All right. So Aaron, 3,771 hits, third all time, 755 home runs. Mays, 3,293 hits, 660 homers, was third all time for a very long time until Albert Pujols. Well, Bonds. Albert Pujols, 703 home runs, 3,384 hits. You got it, guys.
Whoa, we got it right. Oh my goodness.
Wow, we did it. We did it. Oh my God. What a relief.
You guys were all over it too. Murray missed it just barely on the home runs, 504, but had him in the hits.
Ooh.
Griffey was just under 2,800.
Yeah, not
and then Paul Merrow, he got to 3,000 and retired shortly thereafter. He finished at 3,020 hits.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
So, Doug,
Man,
like,
that was
okay,
crazy.
this means that we've done something we've never done. We've gotten at least one trivia question right every month of the season. Is that good?
Man.
It feels good to me.
Yeah, we have to build a statue now. I love statues. So we're gonna have to come up with something
Yeah, you love
to
statues.
commemorate.
None of them actually ever get built, but
I do want to say thank you because I just realized something. You guys had me on for the opening day, your first one of the year, for that stolen base question because of all the rule changes this year. So I feel like I've kind of capped the season for you guys.
Yeah,
and,
you have.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, this feels good. The Braves into their skid. They're coming back on strong. You guys are now cruising into October. So I feel playoffs.
Yeah.
This is great.
All right.
Okay.
I feel right.
Glad to hear this. But enough of this chit chat, because here's what you have to keep in mind. Whether we get the questions right or wrong, this segment always at this stage takes a turn for the better, because you don't have us mucking it up anymore, at least for the next couple of minutes. Time to bring in the mayor of Starkville, Tim McMaster, to play another fantastic play-by-play clip involving this week's answer. So, Tim, so many great choices for you this week. Can't wait to see what you play.
So we used Mays last week on the catch for defense, right? And and we've used the Aaron record breaker many times. So I decided to go with Albert because I thought it might be the one you guys struggled with, and you came through. I thought you were going to talk yourselves out of it, but you came through. So let's go back to one of Albert's gems, 2005 NLCS against the Astros.
On the Pool. In the air, left field, and Pujols has given St. Louis the lead. A dramatic, towering 3-run home run. Stunned in disbelief here in Houston. A single by Eckstein, a walk to Edmonds, and how about Albert Pujols?
How about Albert Pujols? Brad Lidge just turned us off. That's not his favorite postseason moment. I'll never forget that homer. Never. I was sitting in that original press box in Houston, right behind home plate, right behind all these fans who were, their team was 1 out away from going to their first World Series. They were hugging, they were taking selfies, they were going to the World Series. And then I can still see the baseball hanging there in the sky. It was breathtaking. Oh my God, breathtaking. So Paul, great job, man. As always, great question. Thanks for making yet another trip to Starkville. Your virtual key is not in the mail or on your phone, but look for it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's beautiful this time of year.
Yeah, right. I'm sure I'll see you in Atlanta this year.
All right.
I'm pretty confident of that. Doug, way back 6 months ago, 7 months ago, our very first guest of spring training, if you remember this, was Adam Wainwright. And now we're moving into the final week of his career. And I mean, we're going to miss him, although if he's not hanging out in somebody's broadcast booth for the next 20 years, ESPN or Fox or Turner or somebody is just asleep at the switch. But that just sets the stage for, here it is. It's time for his greatest career achievement. And you probably think I'm talking about him winning his 200th game. Not quite. I mean him being celebrated in the Strange But True segment of this show. Doug,
of course.
Could it possibly get any bigger than that?
No, I assumed that, the 200 would have surprised me. I was all over this. He's been to Starkville. Like many others, he probably has a statue and a key. And he's doing great. Life is good.
Yeah. So let's explain how he made it into the segment. It's not just because he won his 200th game last Monday. It's because of how he won it. So, Doug, I want you to listen to how that happened. It was a 0-0 game Wilson Contreras stepped to the plate, and here's what Wilson Contreras did.
On a roll, that ball hammered down the line. Did he keep it fair? He did! A line drive homer, and he watched it roar out of the ballpark. It's 1-0 St. Louis.
Chip, this thing got out of the ballpark in a hurry.
Chip Carey got a little excited there. Okay, so that's Adam Wainwright's catcher, Wilson Contreras, hitting a home run for the only run in Adam Wainwright's 200th win. So that's pretty cool, right? It is.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Fitting.
But it's not.
Battery, a true battery.
Yeah. It's okay. Now it's time, though, to explain what made it strange, but also true. Back on opening day of the 2014 season, Adam Wainwright won the 100th game of his career, went 7 shutout innings in that game, went 7 shutout innings in this game. I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
How do you think the only run scored in the 100th win? Would you believe on a home run by his catcher that day, Yadi Molina? And just to remember, that had the only run score in the 200th win on a home run by the catcher. But Doug, I'm not done.
Yes. No.
Okay. How many other pitchers in history do you think have ever won their 200th game 1-0 on a home run by their catcher?
I'm going to go with 0.
0 is a good guess. That's correct. The answer is 0. Never happened till Adam Wainwright did it last Monday. Okay, I'm going to keep going. How many other 1-0 games in Adam Wainwright's career did he win on any kind of RBI by his catcher, other than win number 100 and win number 200?
Whoa. That has to be 0 too.
You're good at this. That would also be 0. Okay. Like, it gives me goosebumps. How about you?
Wow. I mean, all right. So he's won 200 games. The 100th and 200th game that he won we're in 1-0 games.
Yep.
The only run was by a home run by his catcher. That's what you're saying.
Yep.
And then none of the other 198 wins did that happen. That's what you're telling me.
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Okay. I mean, well, Wainwright, Molina, it's the ultimate battery. So it just seems fitting, positive and minus and negative, and the ultimate balance. It's what a career. And he is so much of like a catcher's pitcher, right? That's how I think about Wainwright. And it's fitting that, like, when he gets these milestones, he truly is celebrating it with his catcher in the finest fashion, in a moment that the catcher contributed. So
I think you're paying him back. That's exactly right.
Yeah, it works really well.
I got one more, Doug. How many other games all season do you think there have been in which any starting pitcher on any team won a 1-0 game on a home run by his catcher?
Well, we like zeros on the show, so I'm going to stay with 0.
Right. It's 0 again. So here's my final question. How great is baseball? Huh? How great is baseball?
Too great.
What scripts?
Too great.
Yep. All right. That is going to do it for this week's show. We'll be bringing you podcast magic just like this all season long on the Athletic Baseball Show, which is available in its entirety absolutely free everywhere you get your podcasts.
Yes.
But also remember that you too can be part of this very podcast, because every show we pick some fun listener trivia question. Then what happens, Doug? That lucky listener gets to join us right here and try to stump us with some baseball trivia. That didn't work out very well for Paul McCord today, now did it?
No. Gotcha.
So how could you go down that road? Well, you could do what Paul McCord did. You could email us at starkville@theathletic.com. That's Starkville with an E on the end of Starkville. Or check out my Facebook fan page. Gotten some fun questions there. Or you can do what most people do. Just X at us on the site we used to call Twitter. So, Doug, let's recap one more time how someone would go about Xing a question to Doug Landville.
Well, first of all, when in doubt, the answer is 0. So that I think we might have to do our new like bonus show, Starkville 0. I think it'd be kind of cool. But if you want to X me, whatever that is, at X, just spell my name out. And right now it's still an at, so I'm going to stay with that. At Doug Glanville, DougGlanbille. That's it.
Doug correctly spells his name every week. It's incredible. Yeah. I only have to spell my first name.
Well, it's on the screen here too. So that helps. It's right here on the Zoom screen. Yeah.
Okay, right. So you cheated.
I cheated.
Yeah. Cheated. I only have to spell my first name. I am at Jason ST, JAYSONST. Don't leave out that Y. And also, don't leave out the hashtag StarkvilleQS. So, Doug, thanks for playing. Thanks to Terry Francona for the great visit. Thanks to Paul McCord for the fun trivia question. Thanks to the mayor of Starkville, Tim McMaster, for producing us and putting up with us. And Doug and I will see you next week on
Starkville.